think it'll take us probably a half hour maybe. So
Okay.
won't take too much of your time, and it'll live on forever and ever and ever in the internet realm and on
Yeah,
Spotify
great.
and everywhere else. So it'll work out good. So. Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Blacktop Banter, episode 36, and I finally wrangled in Jason from Florida Sealcoating. That guy's a busy dude, and we made time today. And I'm in about 4 or 5 inches of snow out here. Jason is. I seen a Instagram post yesterday. They're cleaning a lot and going after it. Jason, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're located at, your name, about your business, and that kind of stuff.
Sure thing. I'm Jason Libmann with Florida Sealcoating. Been in business now 22 years, and we're located in Orlando, Florida, Central Florida, right by Disney.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Do you take care of Disney product or Disney places and stuff yet? Do they have that, or is everything in house there, or how does that
No,
work?
it's normally third party. We normally work for contractors that work for Disney.
I got you.
We do a very little bit of work for them, asphalt repairs and some striping and stuff like that, but it's hit or miss.
That's all right, man. It's still kind of cool to have on the portfolio,
Sure.
Cool.
Sure.
So
It's always exciting to pull in there and I mean, going through security, it's pretty difficult. Everybody's got to be background checked, and they go through the trucks with dogs, and it's intense.
Really? They go through the truck. Crazy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
That's wild to think that at Disney they do it, but I mean, I guess it's the happiest place on earth, man. So they want it.
Sure.
How did you get started? You said 22 years you've been in it, or 28?
Yeah. It basically got started because it all started out with striping. So it got into with just a striping machine, seeing somebody striping, and then it kind of evolved in from striping. When you're out striping, I started striping for a lot of larger firms here in Florida.
Yep.
Just keeping me busy. Waking up next to my bed, I had a printer. Basically a fax machine, and I'd wake up to about 3 or 5 orders on a fax machine, and I'd just go out and stripe for the day.
Damn, man.
And then it just got into, while I was out on jobs, people would come up, say, hey, I've got a parking lot that would need to be done. And so I would go to my contractors that I was striping for, and I'd say, hey, this guy's got a lot down the road from here. And a lot of them were smaller jobs, and the contractors that I was working for, it's too small for us. We don't have any interest. So I started looking at the bangers, is what we call down here, the small lots. And I was like, let me get a little 300-gallon seal coat rig with an agitator and an air diaphragm pump, and kind of went from there. And never had sealed, and there was a lot of learning curves and a lot of mistakes.
Dude.
But it kind of went from there and has evolved.
Crazy. That's crazy to think. When I look at your Instagram posts now, and I look at your marketing, and I look at what you guys do, those are always my favorite stories, is when someone was just like, all I had was this, and this was the situation, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
Sure.
I know you're on a tight schedule. I know you and I've tried a few times to get this back and forth, and it's like, hey man, when are we going to fit it in? For me, it's easy because, like I said, I got snow on the ground. Now I'm doing paperwork in here, files and taxes and everything else, and I put everything off until the winter, till we can do our book work and paperwork. Of course, I travel around and see all my buddies and stuff like that, and do a lot of different things. But the difference between where you are and where I am, and geographically, is a big difference. When it comes to sealing, how is it different in Florida versus where we are? Up in the north, we have a different process, it seems like, than what you guys do down there. And we're seal coating every 2 or 3 years up here on the same pavement. What's different down there versus up here?
Well, obviously the weather being a huge part of it, temperatures are dramatic, and it happens here as well. We have what we call our winter season as well, and that has just surpassed, and that's the hurricane rainy season. So we kind of go through the same thing, and we try to schedule in, work that does not have to do with sealing, whether it be signage, car stops, certain asphalt repairs, so we can beat that window of rain that starts at 3:30 every day. But, even down here in Florida, we still have chills. There's there's evenings where it drops down into the 40s, and that's very cold for us. So, what we normally do is we'll have the guys come in and get everything prepared and ready to go out the door. And then normally we have to wait till about 9:30, 10 o'clock before we can proceed, obviously due to temperatures being above 55 degrees,
Yeah.
to do an application of sealer. Then we're rushing through. So for what we do typically this time of year, which is different, than the summertime, we can get 2 coats in pretty quickly throughout the summertime. This time of year, we're basically operating on a 1 coat system per day.
Sure.
Because, we want to seal when it's above 55 temperatures and rising. The material has to cure out. And we don't want it to re-emulsify, obviously, before applying that second coat. And by then, it's, 4:45, 5 o'clock, it's starting to get dark.
Man.
So, but we've definitely watched the weather and temperatures down here. That's a huge factor.
Yeah.
But we're pretty blessed. We get to roll 365 days a year unless we have a 50-degree day, which is very, very rare for us. Very rare.
And for you guys being right there, you're, like you said, 365 days a year, you get to roll if you want to, if you can, if the weather's, if it's not raining or whatever. And that's a lot different than up here. So do one thing I've kind of recognized is that where we charge a little bit higher price per square foot than places that have it 365 days a year, because we have a small window, and we have to, if we're going to do this as a living, we have to mash it all in to make sure we're getting a higher end. Now I've also realized that we pay a higher end for sealer per gallon than the national average, more than likely too. When I think about that, and I think about price wise, sometimes we include crack filling and things like that as well. I know in Florida, when I've been there, of course, I'm always looking at the pavement everywhere I go. I don't see crack filling as much. Is that a thing there? Do they just be like, what, screw it, we're not even going to crack fill because there's no need to? Or do they wait till it's a liability issue? How does that work?
It's kind of difficult, right? So, and up north, we have, I'm from Chicago, right, as a child. So up north, cracks can be 1 inch to 2 inches
sometimes
wide.
Yeah.
So it makes sense to get that filled, with a bituminous product, because first off, you guys have, your sub base is freeze.
Oh yeah.
Sure. We don't get that here in Florida. So what we get down here is what's called hairline cracking, spider cracking. And that's normally due to, because down here we pave over top of what's called lime rock. Mm-hmm. And lime rock will get as hard as concrete once it's compacted. Really? And then that's above sand. So normally the cracking we get is from subbase failures due to the lack of compaction or the movement of sand below it. Yep. So our cracks don't tend to get that wide. Now we do have water that'll penetrate that crack and undermine the subbase, but it's a hard sell. It is very hard sell down here. We push it. We highly recommend it. Like up north, a lot of times when guys do, R&R, they saw cut that asphalt and they do a patch. They'll put the crack fill around the patch to stop the water from penetrating. You don't get any of that down here.
Yeah.
So I like it because it protects the edges of the patch. It is an upsell. But crack filling down here is a hard sell because a lot of people understand that with concrete down here as well, once it cracks, there's really no fixing it. Normally the expansion and contraction of the asphalt down here is enormous throughout the day.
Yeah.
It doesn't really serve a purpose. If they're really large, we like to hit them with a crack filler, but that's very rare. Normally what you get is a surface crack. Where up north, the crack will expand all the way down to the subbase. Mm. Yeah. And we're here, the crack will surface crack because of movement, expansion and contraction from the heat. So it's a very minute crack, and to fill that, normally the sealer will do its job. It won't fill it, but it'll seal it.
When do customers usually call you for another application of sealer? Like, do they usually wait until it's starting to fade, till the sun, till the sun cooks it a little bit? Because there's some places down there where, when I was in Miami a couple of years ago, and I thought, when would they ever reseal this? Because it was just a small parking area by a beach shop, and it looked like it already had freaking a half inch of sealer on it already. And I was like, man, I'm like, when would they ever reseal this? How does that work, Jason? Like, do you wait for the customer to do it? Do you ring that bell and say, hey, every 4 or 5 years? How does it usually go?
Oh, we ring the bell. But the
Yeah.
thing is too is, you know, and it has come with experience. So typically it's all based upon the ups that come in the door, right? And what I mean by that is traffic. So how many units does this parking lot have, or driveways? Typically driveways, we put them on a 4-year callback.
Okay.
You know, we do a squeegee application on most driveways, which we don't have to hear from them. Now, if it's an iron, a well, if it's like they have irrigation system that runs on a well, it will discolor the edges of the sealer.
Yeah.
Sealer's still good, but it'll discolor it. So we have clients that call us every year because they have a budget to spend. We have people that just want it done every year because it keeps it black and beautiful. And we also have clients that, you know, we have on a 3 and 5 year. Most commercial applications we have in our CRM as a callback at 3 years. Obviously, we go 6 months, 1 year, a year and a half. We try to lock them into that maintenance plan to keep them going across track.
Mhm.
But typically, most of our sealers last up to 4 to 5 year commercial standards. It's all based upon traffic, turning lanes, turning radiuses, aprons, water flow, water standing. We try to keep them in the CRM so that way we can obtain the notes that go into the system and keep having the sales guys going by and keeping a track on things. So it's really based upon wearability.
Do you find that sometimes, you know, up here, you obviously notice when you have a pothole, and the property manager notices right away. Do you find down there that sometimes they aren't looking as good as you guys would, so you stay in touch a little bit longer? Because some of those surfaces where you are big asphalt areas around there. If once you get onto them, I would imagine from what I've seen, do they have you guys come do a regular check like that, or do you offer a regular check? How does that work in some of those spots? Because up here, everyone looks at their blacktop because most of the time they're driving through a crater once that pothole forms and the ice has shifted it and moved it. You know, how does that work?
Well, we'll start at base one. Let's just say you called me for an evaluation and you have a pothole in your parking lot. At that point, they're obtained as a client.
Yep.
So what we're going to do is we're going to go and evaluate that pothole. But at the same time, myself or my sales guys will evaluate the entire area. Signage, ADA compliance, slopes on the handicap spaces, making sure that their indicators for their arrows, their parking, their striping, everything is up to par. If it needs to be sealed, we would recommend that. So we'll kind of go through and say, hey, here's our recommendations on top of this asphalt repair.
Yep.
Here's the price for the asphalt repair. But, you know, we'll give them an itemized list of things that we would recommend. Mm-hmm. Now, if they're a previous client and we come in and we do an asphalt repair, or we do a seal coat management for them and come in and do asphalt repairs and seal coat and new signage, once they're in the system, they're constantly follow up. Every couple months, hey, how you doing? Most of the guys that sell the job ourselves, we constantly drive through and do a follow-up. So if it's a problematic lot or a lot of ups that come in and out of the area, we keep an eye on it so we can stay in front of them. Because, look, you know as well as I do, there's plenty of other guys out there knocking on the door trying to obtain that business, right?
Oh, for sure.
So we work really hard to stay out in front of them and look out for any future problems that might be occurring, you know, and try to put together a budget plan for them for the future if we do get called out for a pothole.
Yeah, I mean, once you've got your foot in the door, you might as well go ahead and create some value for those clients, because that tends to be how you stay nestled in. If there's no reason to look anywhere else, why would they? You know?
Wait, you know, it's like one of the biggest things, and a lot of you guys, I'm sure, know this already, but to take a property manager or a property owner's asset and say to them, look, let me be responsible of overlooking this thing. I'm not going to charge you. I'm just going to keep you updated on what's happening out here, so that way you can make your money go long and protect your investment. Because that's the biggest thing. Too many people come in and they're just like, look, I want the job, and then they let them go.
Yep.
I mean, we do more follow-up on people that we lost jobs or got outbid on or underbid on. We work on those clients harder than the people that we have as a client base, because they already know we're going to do a good quality job and we're in front of them. It's the people that we couldn't get that we worked the hardest at.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and I guess that kind of leads into my next question is, how is seal coating in Florida or patching or whatever? Is the process any different than what you would expect up here where we are, as far as prepping it, getting it, serviced, a wait time, anything like that? I know you guys deal with some humidity, and then all of a sudden, you'll be down there at 1 a.m. or 1 p.m. It'd be gorgeous out, and within 10 minutes you got a storm rolling in, and 20 minutes later you're back to sunshine. I mean, is there anything like that? I know it's hard for me to judge whether or not it's going to rain when I'm down there, and I'll watch the weather sometime, and they'll be like, yeah, for a minute maybe it might rain. So I'm wondering, like, is your prepping any different than what you see normally from everywhere else across the country? Is the process any different?
Not necessarily. I think we all have the same process. I mean, we obviously battle with weather.
Yeah.
And what we call spoils. We lost 3.5 tons yesterday due to weather. Yeah. And we've lost some today. Same thing. I mean, you're going to constantly be battling the weather. I think the hardest part for us is not knowing. Yeah. I mean, we've sat back for a long time and just let the weather roll by, and it's stopped us. It's hurt us a lot. So now we take that risk and kind of just go after it, because listen, if Florida says it's going to rain and you don't go to work, it doesn't rain. You know what I'm saying? And if you do go to work, it normally rains. So you can't win. But no, I mean, the process is completely different. I just had this discussion in South Florida yesterday. In South Florida, they've got lime rock for subbase everywhere. Yeah. Right. And up here in Central Florida, we start going into compacted soil base, mm-hmm. which could be like a concrete fines, clay based mixture, and then with a stabilizer in it. Mm-hmm. South Florida, all parking lots are about 1 inch deep. So after 1 inch of an overlay compaction, you're at 3/4 to 1/2 inch. So it's different. And, their procedures of patching are a lot different. Mm-hmm. Where here in Orlando, we can go from 2 inches of asphalt to 4 inches. Yeah. And then, you northern folks, you guys can have asphalt that's 6 inches deep. Yeah, because you guys sometimes pave over top of gravel. Yeah. So, I mean, the procedure is pretty much the same with the saw cut, tack your edges, tack your subbase if there's a stabilized subbase there to create that binder. But as far as I pretty much think it's all the same procedure.
As far as seal coating goes, when I'm down there, I notice that the pavement is made up of a lot of shells. I'll see shells and stuff inside of the pavement. What type of sealer do you guys use? Do you think that that's any different? I know, obviously, you don't have to say the brand, but just what type do you use? I'm guessing an asphalt emulsion or a coal tar emulsion, something along those lines. Do you know if that's specified for shells or anything like that at all? Where we are, it's always limestone or granite.
Yeah. And it's and the whole shell days are really gone. If you're seeing shell that's put into aggregates, and they do that down in South Florida some, but that's not like on a high traffic area where you're putting down 12.5 or S3. Oh, okay. The stone size. Yep. So, but all different types of sealer for all different types of applications, right? So, yep. If it's a newer asphalt, you want to try to put back an asphalt emulsion. Sure. And it as well, if it's more of an aged asphalt, we would recommend a Tarkenite product, mm-hmm. something more of a coal tar emulsion, mm-hmm. Or a Seal Master product or Gym Seal. I mean, I'm just throwing names out there, but I got you. It also is based upon what's spec'd in. So sure. A lot of times we come across jobs where the owner or the property manager or the PML or whoever it is has a specific project or product that's spec'd
they want used. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know, so you and I met, I was at the Titan booth last MPE, and that's really where we got to meet. I know we kind of knew each other a little bit when we got to meet, and we were talking about undertakings that you wanted to do this next summer and then undertakings that I wanted to kind of do and get into this year. And I seen that you guys kind of stepped up a little bit, took on a little bit bigger stuff and bigger things. What was that like this year, kind of taking on? I seen you guys had some big paving projects. I seen that got pushed through the marketing and stuff like that through Florida Sealcoating here this year. And, with your guys' numbers, the seal coat number, and now the asphalt number and everything as well. It's pretty cool. How did that go? Did that go well as far as what you planned on undertaking and what you did?
Yeah, it's just like anything else. It's a big learning curve. I've always been kind of slow going. I've never thrown everything at the wall and hopes it sticks.
Right.
So we've definitely moved
Yeah.
very powerfully, here in Central Florida with our seal coating.
Mhm.
We're creating quite a name for ourselves, and I think that's because we stand behind what we do and we try to teach the client on what it is that they're actually paying for.
Mhm.
Because too many times, a lot of these property management companies, they'll come through and it's like, hey, we want to seal.
Yeah, and that's
They
that.
don't even know what
What they're
the
getting.
conditions are or whatever. But so yeah, we've really taken on that. We're bumping up the seal coating quite a bit because
Mhm.
that's what we love to do. We love protecting people's investment and also making that beautification change throughout the property. It's totally gratifying, right?
Yeah.
Paving has been a just like anything else. It's a little more difficult learning the numbers coming from nothing.
Yep.
Working in an area around a group of guys that are very successful and great contractors,
Yep.
they don't want to share a whole lot of information. That's why we go to the Pavement Expo. So I
Yes.
can talk with Jason Mann, who will share everything with
Everything
me.
he knows.
God bless his soul,
Yep.
because I'm not a threat to him.
Right.
Or these larger companies that can enlighten you on, hey, look out for this. Here's a good way to do count content with trucking and tonnage,
Yep.
because down here, really, nobody wants to share, the flavor of the soup and the ingredients, right? So it's definitely a learning process. We're taking our time.
Good.
We're actually definitely moving our way more into the pavement side because the more client base we've gained with maintenance obviously opens the door for longer term. I mean, I've been in business now 20 years. So these parking lots I've been maintaining for 15, 20 years, they're ready for mill and paves or overlays.
Yep.
So it's definitely been exciting. We're excited about the future. We're working on every day and
Tell me
focusing on
about
our
that,
growth.
Jason.
And
Tell me about the future. What do you see here? You guys have a huge head of steam and momentum, and we're kind of in the same boat where we took on some paving this year, and same thing, learning curves, what we need to do, what we don't need to do. What do you see for the future here for Florida Seal Coating?
I think right now what we're focusing more on is the future business.
Yep.
Keeping the client by our side. That's really what we're focusing on. It's not so much as growing as fast as we can
Yep.
because organically the growth has just been happening.
Perfect.
And now with social media and younger demographic of people being in the choice decision that's hiring us,
True.
those are the people we're targeting, and
Yep.
as well the elders. They're knowledgeable, but I think that we're definitely looking on a brighter future. We're definitely working on growth,
Yep.
but we're taking our time.
It's
We're not
perfect.
trying to get ahead of ourselves and get overwhelmed.
So with that being said, and that's a good, for me, we're doing the same thing. That seems to be like the best way to do it. Take your time, plan out your move, but also make sure that you're just moving forward. And it looks like you guys are doing just as well as anybody else at that. And we were mentioning Jason Mann and some of the guys that we go and pick their brains about. And I talk to Chris Love all the time. We pick each other's brains back and forth. And I know you and I have talked back and forth a little bit. It's nice to have that network. You've given out a lot of tidbits and advice and stuff already through my questions in this podcast. But for people that are starting out or kind of in trying to grow to your size, what would be some advice? I know you like to go slow and take your time, but what would be some quick advice here as we close down kind of our quick session of the podcast that you would give to your younger self? I always like to put it that way because it makes you think a little bit more introspectively. If you could go back to yourself 15 years ago, what would you tell that Jason for any kind of advice?
Don't chase the dollar. Take your time. Um, Definitely be passionate about it. I think that passion is a big part of this industry. There's a lot of people that are in it for the money, and I think when you chase the dollar, you lose it. The exciting part about starting the businesses is being here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like grinding, not going home until you have a maybe or almost a close for a job the next day. I mean, when I started this business, it was door to door.
Yeah.
I didn't know about chasing the property managers and national work and and all of those things, you know, so you learn in time. And I definitely recommend finding a mentor,
Yeah.
because unfortunately I didn't have that growing up into the industry. Like I said, it's hard when you're in a big town or a city and most of your competitors in your market don't really want to share information with you.
True.
But I say be passionate about it, love it, and find out what you do best and focus on that for sure.
Perfect. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you taking some time with me. And I know we had a short one. Usually when we have time, it's at MPE, and we have all the time in the world to shoot the breeze and walk the floor.
Yeah, very upset that we can't make it this year.
I know I'm going to miss that, but we'll stay in touch and get things going. Man, I really appreciate you being on the podcast and taking some time with me, because I really wanted to get that perspective from Florida here on the podcast and get it down, because I know there's guys in that area that question, you know, hey, how do we do this? Why is it different? How is it different? And I do my best with all the answers, but I don't have them. It's nice to, excuse me, it's nice to go to my friends and be like, hey, let's pop some of these questions out and figure out what things
Anytime,
are going.
man. Anytime. I appreciate you inviting me on, man.
Hey, man, no worries. Thanks a lot. So for Jason, myself, the team at Florida Sealcoating, and might as well say the team here at Wiscoat too, we want you to pave it, seal it, stripe it, and kill it. Peace.